pre-calculus students, there's a topic that tends to be challenging for them, and that topic is graphing trigonometric ratios, and that is with looking at the sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent. And I think what makes it difficult for them is not understanding that when you understand the unit circle, a lot of things actually stem from that, and that's why a lot of teachers or pre-calculus teachers pay a lot of emphasis to learning the unit circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw our coordinates, and we're going to use that to generate a sine graph and maybe a cosine graph, and let's see how things go. We may do a tangent graph as well. So let's go ahead and draw our coordinates right here. So these are coordinates. This is 1. So we have 1 right here, we have 1, we have -1, and we have -1. And now we have to remember that we're going to go counterclockwise here. So that is in that direction. We're going to go in that direction. So let's join this and try to create something that looks like a circle. And this is going to be our unit circle. Okay. So we often have, whenever we have coordinates, we write it in the form xy. But when we are dealing with trigonometry, we're going to write it in as, we're going to write the point as cosine sine. So this is going to be 1, 0. This is going to be 0, 1. This is going to be -1, 0. And this is going to be 0, -1. And we're going to use radians for this lesson here. So this is going to be 0. And I'm going to use a different color to write that. So this is going to be pi over 2. This is going to be pi. This is going to be 3 pi over 2. So here's what this is telling us. Remember that our x coordinate is cosine and our y coordinate is sine. So now let's go ahead and draw our graph right here. I'm going to go from 0 to 2 pi. And let's not forget that there's a 2 pi here. Let's go 0 to 2 pi. So what we have to do now is I'm going to do, because if you look at the coordinates here, the axis here, where our degrees are, well, our units of our angle units are separated by pi over 2. So I'm going to have right here 0. I'm going to do a pi over 2 here. I'm going to do a pi over here, then 3 pi over 2, and then I'm going to do a 2 pi over here. So when we are trying to draw the sine graph, we're focused on only the y coordinates. So we're going to focus on the y coordinates. So if you look over here, you're going to see that at 0, your y coordinate is 0. So we're going to draw a 0 here. And your maximum here is 1. And your minimum here is, your maximum value is 1. Your minimum value is -1. This is what you call the amplitude. I will get into that later on. So we get from 0 here, and then we go to pi over 2. Y is 1. So we come over here. Then we go to pi. We get back to 0. Y is 0. Then we go to 3 pi over 2. We get -1. And then we get 2 pi, we go to 0 again. So now let's join this together and see what we have for our graph. So we have 0, 2 pi over 2, 2 pi, and then we come down to 3 pi over 2, and then we go to 2 pi. So now this is your standard sine graph. So this is y equal to sine x. So this right here is y equal to sine x. Now let's go ahead and try to draw the cosine graph. And we're going to follow the same technique right here. So we're going to have 0 here. Then we have pi over 2. We have pi. We have 3 pi over 2. And then we have 2 pi. And our maximum values are going to be, the maximum value of cosine is going to be 1. The minimum value is always going to be -1. So now we're drawing cosine, the cosine graph. We're going to focus only on the x values, the x coordinate values. So let's go ahead and start drawing. So for our x coordinate value for 0, you can see that that is 1 right here. So we're going to start here. And then we go up to 0. Then we're right here. Then we go to -1. We're right here. Then 3 pi over 2, we go back to 0. And then at 2 pi, we go back to 1. So let's join this together and see if it looks like the graphs that we tend to see whenever we have memorized the cosine graph. So we start at 1, we go down to 0, we go to -1, go to 0, and then we go to 1. So this is simply how that graph is generated. Now we're going to do something unique, and that is try to draw the tan graph. Now, let me write this is y equal to cosine x. Now we're going to try to draw a tan graph. Now tan is unique because we have to remember something very important about generating your tan. Your tan is going to be sine divided by cosine. So let's go ahead and let's draw an axis and get something going. So we have right here, we're going to do the same thing. We have 0, we have pi over 2, we have pi, we have 3 pi over 2, and then we have 2 pi. Now, when we have sine over cosine, we have to remember something here. There are some instances where sine is 1 and cosine is 0. This is going to be undefined. 1 over 0 is undefined, so we're going to generate what we call an asymptote. And an asymptote is a line that the graph can never touch because at that point, the graph is actually undefined. So we're going to draw some dotted lines to indicate our asymptote. So what's the easiest way to figure out where our asymptote is going to be? Our asymptote is going to be anywhere that sine is a non-zero value and cosine is a 0 value. So you can see just by looking at the graph that your asymptote will generate at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So let's go ahead and just do that. Let's draw our asymptote at pi over 2 right here and 3 pi over 2 right here. Now, a few things that we have to remember. Where is tan going to be positive and where is tan going to be negative? So we can see here that there's a way to remember. So we can say this is all trig ratios are positive here, all sine trig ratios are positive here, all tan trig ratios are positive here, and all cosine trig ratios are positive in this quadrant. Now, there's a simple way to remember. Just remember that you have y over x. Your tan is always y over x, which is sine over cosine. All you're seeing here is that in this portion right here, your your y value is positive, your x value is negative. That is why you have a negative tan here, and here both are negative, so you have a positive tan value. I think I'll probably do another lesson just focusing on that. So let's go ahead and try to figure out what we're going to do with our tan graph here. So if you look at our tan graph here, we start off at 0 because sine over cosine is 0. Sine over cosine is 0 right here. I'm going to use a different color here just so we can see it more clearly. So let's use this one right here. So it's going to start from 0, and you can see that because your values of, notice here that your values of sine continue to increase, but your value of cosine continue to decrease. So you're going to have something that looks like this at that point. And then we're going to see also that at pi, sine the tan of pi is going to be 0, so we're going to draw a line right here. So now we go over to our asymptote, and then our asymptote in this quadrant, tan is negative. So we're going to go from the negative part of the asymptote, come all the way here, and then we are going to go over here where we're going to get to another asymptote, but in this quadrant, tan is positive. So we're going to come right there, looking like that. And then we end up going from this asymptote to 0. We go from this asymptote right here to 0. And you can see that tan is negative from this asymptote right here to 0. So you're going to have something that looks like that. So this is actually your tan graph. And you can see that it's so easy to imagine your tan graph when you start looking at the fact that your unit circle becomes almost like a super guide in drawing this type of graphs. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment in the comment section, and if you need some more clarity on that, feel free to let us know. And as usual, if you want one-on-one, if you like this style of videos and this type of learning, and you like a one-on-one session, there will be some information in the details on how you can reach us for your